Hello, hello. I'm back. Let's get started. Hmm. Excuse me. God damn it. No, this one doesn't need. Look at all these errors. All right. So back to where we started. Bum bum. Mute. And all right, so just one file that doesn't compile. That's what I was doing yesterday. Right, lazy day. Lazy Friday. Right. Enough looking at the other screen. Where the hell was that? Here. Excuse me. God damn it. Looks like I need to add another file. Right, Alright, so this one can go. Yeah. Need to move more stuff. Music finished. Let's put something else. Get real path. Hmm. Damn it. I guess we can do this. I guess I'll need to put this one there too. Wow, mix these. Excuse me. All right. Virtual file, read archive. Hmm. Excuse me. Alright, so this goes here. And what is that? Where? Library. Okay, so this one is fine. Lot of errors, lots of errors. Okay. Yeah. Getting there. I need to go and do something. My stomach is grumbling. I'll be right back. Excuse me. Thought I was muted. Forgot to mute myself. Right, I'm back, but I will be muted while I eat.
One of the hard parts about being a indie developer, and I work on a small team. I want to say solo developer, but I'm absolutely not a solo developer. I'm working with Thornity, Thomas Stewart, and Sockhouse to make 3 games, which I'll talk about in a second here. I'm going to actually share all the wish list numbers later in this video. The hard thing is that we really just have Steam, and so when Steam makes a change, you basically just have to shift with the meta. And like every competitive game or marketplace, the meta is going to be changing. The ways people are interacting and trying to basically like break the system. Like think of a game like League of Legends, for example. Like in League of Legends, like if Jax becomes an overpowered champion or Irelia or somebody like that, like it's going to shift the meta and people are going to start playing maybe counters to them or Riot will have to step in and nerf them. Steam's no different. It's just like at the end of the day, it's not a competitive video game. It's a marketplace that people like me are making their living doing. And so when Steam ends up making changes, we have to adjust with it, and it's hard. Last year, if you kind of slowly pay attention, you can see stuff slowly working its way out. This came out in last year of October 21st, 2025. They talked about this idea of the personal calendar that they were starting to experiment with. Well, that actually became a thing, I believe, in June 4th. They did a kind of an overhaul. So this was a couple months ago at this point. They did not a couple months, 3 months ago. They did an overhaul of the Steam page and introduced into some really massive changes. Namely, being they brought the personal calendar out there, and then they also have adjusted the popular up and coming section to now be more popular. So the way that the popular up and coming used to work, this was the meta. You wanted to get between 5,000 to 10,000 wish lists so that you could show up on this popular up and coming list. This was going to be games that are coming out soon that have a lot of wish lists. Soon being today, tomorrow, and it's basically the top 10 games. I think it was like a 48-hour window that were going to be coming out. We released a game about feeding a black hole literally on a Monday so that we could hop in and be on the popular upcoming from Friday to Monday. And I think that net us like 5,000 wish list, which ended up being quite the nice increase in wish list for us. And so our whole like release strategy of when we did it was like Thornity min-maxed. He looked at the rankings. He looked at when people are coming out to try to find the way that we could basically try to be number 1 for the weekend. I think we ended up being somewhere in the top 5 for the weekend, which was really nice for us. But now this is my understanding of this, and you can correct me down in the comments if I'm wrong. Is this just going to be like the games out there that have just tons of wish lists? Yeah, look at like the release dates on these games, like available anywhere between the September 10th to the August 14th to the 27th to like. So there's a huge range now where it's not going to be this like really finite window where like you're probably competing with 20, 30 games releasing on your day. You're going to be having a much larger window to try to be on this popular upcoming. So if you can get there, great, but it's probably going to be games with 20 to 100,000 wish lists to really get to this popular upcoming page. Hey there, Amos from the future here. Xsolla has sponsored this video, and here's what they wanted me to share with you. Most developers accept the 30% app store cut as just the cost of doing business. You build the game, you ship it, and then Apple or Google just takes their slice off the top. We just think that's how it works. And the part that really sucks is that's not from your profits. That's from your revenue. So every 30 cents on the dollar that you make before it even lands in your account is just gone like that. And what a lot of devs don't realize is that the rules have changed. Recent court rulings in the United States have shifted what is allowed on iOS and Android. The door is open now. Most developers haven't walked through it yet, and maybe you could be one of the first. Xsolla SDK 3 is built specifically for that. Now, instead of sending every purchase through Apple or Google's billing, Xsolla handles the transactions directly. And the best part is Xsolla's fee is only around 5%. So if you make $100,000 off your game, they're taking $5,000 instead of the normal $30,000. That's $25,000 just back in your pockets, which as a developer in a high variance space, like $25,000 can be the difference between you having to get a full-time job again and you getting to go make that next game. And the best part is that Xsolla is also going to handle the unglamorous part of game dev stuff because they are the merchant of record on every transaction, which means you're going to do global tax compliance, fraud prevention, over 1,000+ payment methods that they accept. It's the stuff that like we didn't get into game dev to manage our taxes and stuff like that. We're here because we want to create cool things. And when things inevitably change, Xsolla is going to handle those shifts on their end. So you just have to connect into their SDK. And it also integrates with Unity, iOS, Android, and PC, and it's generally easy to set up. There's no rebuilding your existing game around their SDK. And a huge thank you to Xsolla for sponsoring this video. They've been a great partner for this channel, help support me along my journey. And if you're interested, there's a link down below to go check out Xsolla SDK 3. What they started doing earlier this year is the personal calendar is now out and about. And what we can do with that is, I don't know why I said about there. What we can do with that now that we have a little bit more understanding, and I have some games coming out on the 27th, Orbreaker, Mining Dwarfs, and Just Keep Fishing, I can talk a little bit about what the general consensus is. And I'm not Chris Sikowski. I don't have all of the juicy data for you, but what I do have for you are my games. And we have Orbreaker here, Mining and Dwarves, and Just Keep Fishing. They're all coming out on August 27th. Make sure you go click the wishlist button down here. And I can even show you some impressions. So this is Mining and Dwarves. Mining and Dwarves is sitting at, I believe it is like, where are we here? Mining and Dwarves. It is at 7,627 wishlist. And you can see here, we've had a lot of different spikes from different moments, but this last little spike here is basically our game coming into the popular upcoming list. And so, not popular upcoming, the personal calendar. And so the way the personal calendar works is this is the current week we're in. It shows Monday through Friday. So the only really thing you got to do moving forward to really adjust your strategy, don't release on a Saturday or Sunday. They said in their blog post that if you release on a Saturday or Sunday, you'll show up on the Monday afterwards. So do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Do not pick Saturday or Sunday because you're going to not take advantage of this being your release window, because the first day you come out is really important. If you're showing on that Monday, it's just you're going to miss some free wish lists. So the way this works is basically this widget, which is the widget on the main page, starts to show the following 2 weeks. So this is next week, and then this is the week afterwards. We're coming out on a Thursday. You could go to the full page, but one of the things that happens again and again whenever users have to interact with storefronts and pages, the more clicks something is hidden, the less likely they are to actually do that. The discovery queue is an example. Like I don't fucking use the discovery queue. Some people do. It's great. It's a good tool. It's a nice thing. Apparently, I don't use it myself. I don't actually know how it works. I do know I get some wish lists from it, which is really cool. So you can see then if we look at these wish lists for Mining and Dwarves here, we went from averaging around 40 to 50, which is the game showing at other places. We're doing cross promotion with Click and Conquer. We're doing cross promotion with the game of Feeding Black Hole. And you can see that it's been about 40 to 50 a day, but then all of a sudden we pop up onto the calendar and this game is 124, 126, 148. Same sort of thing happens for Orbreaker. You can see not nearly as dramatic. Orbreaker is sitting at 6,000 wish list right now, which is solid for no content coverage. I'm really, really excited about 6,000. And it's popping.
I'll finish watching this later. Bum, bum, bum. Let's put the music on. Excuse me. I think I can simplify some of this stuff now. So create item. Yep. Yeah, we can do this, and then full name. Hey, Impromptu. Welcome to the chat. Yeah, I'm not reinventing a simp. I am using a simp for mesh loading. So refactor is because my previous version of the by asset pipeline, I mean how I manage assets basically. So the previous version, what I had was one single big JSON file. I can open the previous version and you'll see what I mean. All right, let's say this one. So the previous version before the refactor was basically this. There was no cooked data. So there was one big JSON file which defines the entire library. By library, I mean asset library, which is this thing here, right? And then you have like these are the individual assets. And if you're talking about the texture, which is the easiest one to understand, let's see if I can get the texture. So texture. The only thing a texture has is obviously the name of the asset and then what image file it's using and then some settings. And I had no concept of cooked data. I thought I could get away with it. It was intentional, right? At the beginning, it was intentional. I thought I could get away without having that. And the point was the game would actually ship with the source assets like image files, mesh files. But as soon as I started working on mesh loading, the limitations became apparent, and I need to have actually cooked data. Yeah, it was basically that, cook on the fly. So, but there was like a big JSON file which defined the entire library, and then the source assets like image files, mesh files, TTF files for fonts, and the game would actually ship with that, right? And that worked fine for textures, fonts, material shaders. That worked fine until I started working on mesh loading. So when I started working on mesh loading, the biggest problem was that when we're talking about textures, it's like a one-to-one. Like I have one source asset, the image, and then this is one-to-one with the asset like that. The asset uses this image. That's it, right? It's one-to-one. But then if you're talking about meshes, it doesn't work like this, because if you're loading a GL, for example, a GLTF file, a GLTF is a scene. So you can have one source asset, the GLTF file, which has a bunch of meshes inside, materials, images. Yeah, some meshes. And then that's one of the limitations. I was like, fuck's sake, I need to refactor this crap. But I mean, it was intentional. But when I did this, when I did it that way, it was intentional, right? Because I'm not trying to make a AAA engine, obviously. So I thought I could get away without it. So, and I've been working on this refactor for like 2 or 3 weeks. It's huge. So, but I can show you what I had in the previous version. So this is the. So if I load the engine, so again, this is the previous version. So this all comes from the JSON file. This is the asset library. And then I had a bunch of stuff working, like like fonts fully working. So I had like MSDF rendering. So if we go here, let's say play. This is just a sandbox game, right? Just doing lots of random crap for me to test. So you can see like the MSDF font text rendering. I have animations. It's also 3D, but you don't see much 3D here. Again, this is just a sandbox to test stuff. Yeah, GLTF just a bit. That's what I was doing before I realized I needed to refactor this. So the older version of the engine, actually, I already had some code for loading meshes, but then I had to start on the refactor. So I already have meshes, but at the moment it's disabled because of the refactor. So for example, if we go, let's say, materials, let's look at this one, like for example here. So I already have PBR rendering, material definitions, all that stuff. So most of the work, since most of the work necessary for meshes is there already. The biggest thing missing is animated meshes. But yeah, meshes are there. But then when I was working on using a simp to load meshes, I came across a limitation and I had to stop. I had to step back, a few steps back. Let's say 2D animations. Yeah. I mean, if it works for you, it works for you, right? It's fine. But I started from the bottom, like textures first. Textures was the first thing, because then that's used for the sprite animations. It's used for fonts because of the Atlas textures. And so if we go, let's say, I was loading this, this. So if we go here, not this. So if we go here, display. So this was the mesh I was playing around with when I got stuck. So I can load this fine. I mean, it loads the image fine. I mean, the geometry loads fine, right? But then I have a bunch of limitations because this is actually a scene with a bunch of I have a pawn, right? And then this is actually one mesh, and then it gets duplicated, and my pipeline had a bunch of stuff lacking to be able to do this. But when I load this with a simp, you can actually ask a simp to flatten this into just one mesh. But it has limitations because it actually has several materials, right? And you can only have one material per mesh. So when you ask a simp to flatten this, there is some limitations because of the materials. But I could actually load this and look. I could do it here. I think I even had already. So if we go here and do new graphics, see I have already mesh here. Well, let's say everything. Let's try this. So if I do this, I haven't done this in a while, so let's see if it works. And then I can, let's grab the file, path. See, I can load the mesh fine. The lights, it's expected. Because I need to set up the lights properly for the, let's say, if I do this and then Y, so let's set up X, Y. Let's move this up, so we're gonna have 0 X. I see. I need to put sensible defaults here by when because I just built the engine at the moment. This doesn't have sensible defaults. I need to get sensible defaults in here. That's better. So you can see it's loading the mesh fine. It's just obviously I was not applying materials because of the problems. So anyway, this is where I kind of stopped, and then I had to start with the refactor. Yeah, I don't have proper scales yet, so I will need to come up with a convention. For example, this is like this is just trial and error, right? If it's 1, and then obviously I need to come up with the right thing, right? At the moment, I just need to put in the raw values. If talking about like the dimensions, yeah, the units for my engine are at the moment I'm not enforcing anything, right? But once I start working on gameplay and all that stuff, units will be meters, scientific units. Not like Unreal, which is what? Is it like I forgot? Is it like 10 meters or 10 centimeters? I forgot what are the units in Unreal, but it's not meters. There's a bunch of stuff that I have currently disabled, so lots of quality of life things. So if I go here, for example, let's close this. So we have this Scarfy. If I go here, I can see, I can inspect who is using that. So if I go here, you can see actually it's not running at the moment because it's not enabled. So if I close this, god damn it. Let's see if I go here and do stack traces. Webbooks. So if I go here and I do inspect, right, is this working? Let's say play, refresh. Might have this disabled. Maybe I didn't compile it in. Anyway, it's compiling because it's slow. I have some quality of life things that I can, for example, track on demand, like who is using this asset at runtime, and then it gives me call stacks. But I have that disabled in this version. Might be. Let me check. we are. Let me see if I can figure out why it's not working. Stack traces asset. Where are we? So this is temp crazy guys. All right. Let's see if I can figure out why that is not working. Excuse me. Shared. Oh. Anyway, yeah, looks like I have the asset tracing disabled for whatever reason. Not a priority right now. For me, it's everything is C++. I'm not planning on having any scripting language anytime soon. What I do have is, like, I have a code generation tool, very similar to Unreal, that allows me to basically analyzes the code and generates more code. It's similar, very similar to Unreal. So it's pretty much this. Let's say. Let's go, for example, texture. So this stuff, right? It's pretty much similar to Unreal. It's just creates reflection, and that's done. Then basically I have a custom tool that parses the code, and then generates reflection, similar to Unreal. So I can easily have serialization, and it makes a bunch of things easier. So what I have at the moment for the asset pipeline, I have a cooked system already. I'm still going with JSON for some things. So what I have here is, now instead of having one single JSON file, every asset, it's a small JSON file. So this, let's say this, see, this is one asset. So it's one JSON file per asset, but these are only needed for development. When shipping the game, it puts all that is needed for an asset inside a binary file, even like the texture, the mesh, whatever it's needed. So basically puts it in a binary file, and then the JSON files are not needed for shipping. It's basically this here. Let's see if we go. The guys. This is the only file. This is the only folder that I need to ship for assets. This is the binary stuff, cooked data. Yeah, so the tool is, like I said, it's very, very similar to what Unreal does. It's a pre-build step that just parses the changed files and then creates a reflection database. And I have a few like in Unreal, I have a few things. I can have a structure, I can have a struct, I can reflect structs, enums, classes. So the class, the convention I have is S as for structs, M is like the managed object. It's like the main thing in the engine. It's a managed object. This is the main thing, M. And then I have enums. I also have the function reflection, but I'm not using it at the moment. Yeah, I generate serialization. So for example, if we go, let's say here, the older version again. If you go to texture, CPP. So you see this here, right? So this is the texture definition. So if you run the game, you'll be able to see if I added the texture. I'll say textures, Scarfy. Right, see, this is all, this doesn't have any hand-coded stuff. This is all automatically generated. Obviously, I have to code the helper code, right, for the window and all that stuff. But once I have that helper code, this, like the generating, this is all automatic based on the reflection. Even does like things like, for example, the enums, obviously you get like the actual strings, and you can reference assets. There is a type of field that is a reference to another asset. So if we open so this is a texture, this is the flip book, the animation that uses the texture, and you can see here like, okay, this is the Scarfy, and it's using the texture Scarfy, right? And this is a reference. So if we go here, it will filter, so you can search other textures. Let's say, let's look for this one here. Let's see. So this is all done automatically. Like after I create the initial code for helper code, then this is all automatic. How do I handle class shape? Oh, you're talking about compatibility, like if I imagine I have assets, and then the format changes. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I went with JSON. So let me explain. I don't have a solid compatibility layer. So that's why I went with JSON for the following reason. Right. I mean, it's just I'm one man team, right? So I can't be doing all that fancy stuff. Otherwise, I will never have a game. So the reason I went with the JSON for again, when I ship, I use binary. But then when shipping, right, compatibility is not a problem because you build the game, right, and you don't need compatibility for shipping, right, because you're going to be cooking the assets, so you don't need compatibility there. Where you need compatibility is you have your library, right, and you're developing the game, and then you make changes, and then it breaks. So I went with JSON because I don't have a solid like compatibility layer. So what I do is obviously new fields will just appear, but there is no like, oh, this was renamed, so it's gonna be this. I don't have anything for that. If it breaks, I just need to fix the JSON files manually. That's why I went with JSON files, so I can just whenever something doesn't port easily, I can just edit the JSON files. We'll see. It's like at the moment it's not a priority. Once I'm working on the game, and if it becomes too cumbersome, like the library is too big, and then something breaks, and I need to edit like all the files, then I'll need to think of something to make that easier. Yeah. So. Like I said, the point of the JSON file is that it's human editable if I want to, right? So I can fix things, and that's only a problem during development, right? For shipping, they are just basically serialized to binary. No, I did think about that, the compatibility layer, but it's just too much bother at the moment. It's not something I really need, at least not right now. I took a look at what Unreal does. Unreal has like some little things to help. Like for example, you can go to ini files and say, like when loading, this field is going to be renamed to this, or this class is going to be renamed to this. It's kind of like you have a little helpers for you to be able to upgrade. If something is like completely broken, like Unreal releases something and they rename the class, right? The engine would have no way to know that was renamed. So there are ways you can say, okay, this class was renamed. So when you're loading, I guess you do that like at the beginning, right? You're porting your game, and then you want all those classes to be renamed to something else. So it has some stuff like that, but I didn't bother. At the moment, it's not a priority. I can easily just, if something breaks, I can easily fix it in minutes. So for removed fields, obviously they get removed on save. New fields, they get added, but obviously it has no way to know, oh, this was not actually removed, it was renamed something else, right? So that doesn't work. But the rename is it's probably something that I can easily go and do like Visual Studio replace all, right? And I put the right regex, and then I can probably rename that manually everywhere, right? With just find and replace tool. So I don't see that as a problem at the moment. I might be wrong, but I don't see that at the moment. Yeah, so that's kind of what Unreal does, as far as I remember, not with a macro, but in ini files. I think Unreal you can do that in ini files. You can go to an ini file and just add some tweaks. And if I have the need, I can probably do that easily. Like, no, if there are renames, then what we'll do is load the entire library, apply the rename, and then save the entire library. Done. Right, let's go back to this. At the moment, I have a bunch of stuff disabled. I had when I started working on the refactor, I had to basically disable every asset type except textures. So I'm starting from the bottom again, right? Texture is the base stuff. So I am doing first the textures, see if the design works fine, and then start enabling stuff. I can't even edit textures yet. But I already have some interesting side effects, like good stuff. I already have some side effects. So if we go, let's see if I can disable this. If append it to layer. Resolve. All right, let's see if it builds now. There we go. So I'll show you a little side effect. So I'm gonna run the game, but in actually editor mode. I mean editor build, simulating the game. So this is like the sandbox, right, for a game, and this pink is actually a texture, and a nice side effect of the system I have now is this. So so the game is running. This is the asset definition, and obviously I'm working on, that's what I'm working at the moment. I'm working on the actual editor because that was disabled. But a nice side effect I have is I can change things here on the fly, and the editor will just reload the asset. So even if the game is running and using the asset, see, it will just reload the asset. The previous system didn't allow to do that. Like the game was using an asset, and then if I was making changes to the library, it would basically create a new asset object. The asset pointer was not stable. Now the asset pointer is stable, so I can have a game using an asset, and then that can change underneath. Hopefully, will make things easier for no quick iterations, like textures, especially textures. And another side effect I have from the cooking system is this. I call this the asset definition, right? So the asset definition, the JSON, gets hashed, and then the cooked data is per hash. So what I mean is, if I change this has one hash, right? And then it gives a specific cooked data. This has another hash, another cooked data. And so if we go here to the saved, see, these are the numbers are the hash, and basically means that if I keep switching between this bool, for example, if I keep switching this bool, it's not recreating the cooked data. It just goes, oh, I already have it, and then it just uses that. Obviously, for shipping, you wouldn't end up with that pollution, because you would clear this folder and then run the cooking step, and it just creates only the hash it needs, right? But for during development, this will be handy, especially like for font text rendering. So because if you're working on text rendering, like with MSDF, creating the Atlas texture for MSDF is quite slow. So if you go and tweak something in the font, it can take, depending on your settings, it can take like a second or two to cook the data for that font. So by having this cache system, I can easily experiment with, let me check this setting, right? And then it just checks the hash, and then if it's a combination you already tested, it will just load that cooked data instead of cooking again. I already had something very similar in the previous version. It was not as comprehensive, but I should be able to test it. I already had something similar. So if we go, let's look at the older version. So we have investigates, and if we go here, let's see if I remember. This is the older version. Saved. So this was actually I don't have it here now. That's good. Cache assets. This. So this is it. So if I delete this, again, this is the older engine, but I already had something similar. I had like a cache of hashed stuff. So I could, like, if I was creating an Atlas texture, it would have an hash, and then that would be reused if possible. So let's say if I run the editor. Now, if I load the game, it will take a while to show everything. See, it's empty. See, it took like a second to show stuff because it was cooking the fonts. Now, if I go and stop it, let's stop this and go here to the fonts. So you see this font here. If I change, this is a bitmap, so that doesn't take long. But if I change to MSDF, this artifact here, it's expected. It's some fonts have things that don't work well with MSDF, but this has nothing to do with my engine. It's just it's expected. The font needs to be fixed basically. So this is now in MSDF. If I switch back to BPM, it's just instant now because I already have the cache data, right? But let's say I'm here and I'm going to change this. It will take a while because it's cooking, right? And now if I change back to 64, and now back to 128, see, it doesn't need to cook. It just reuses the cooked data. MSDF, it's kind of an improvement for text rendering. Man, I have a few links for that. Let's see. It's basically SDF rendering. Text rendering, right? Instead of using bitmaps, instead of using like textures for basically this, right? If you're using bitmap here, right? This is literally one texture, and then you just split all the textures, you have the text. But then you have the problem that it doesn't scale properly, right? Because it's a bitmap, and if you're going to scale, it's going to look blurred. With SDF or MSDF text rendering, what the texture has is more like mathematical data, and then the shader does some fancy calculations with that data, so you can actually zoom, right? You can actually basically it's a more mathematical approach of text rendering, and MSDF has a bunch of improvements over SDF. Yeah, it's kind of like vector form. If you go look at it still generates an Atlas texture, but if you go look at it, you can see that it looks like a normal map in a way, like the colors look like a normal map. So what happens here now, for example, if this is zooming and it doesn't have any blurring because it's using MSDF for rendering. It's a bit slower than just the rasterized fonts, but it just looks better for No, you don't need to have several atlas. You can just have one. Let's see if I can get you some links. There's plenty of materials online. G4, text rendering. Right, I'm gonna send you some links so you can take a look. So this is a library that I'm using, but I'm not using this directly. So it was Valve that invented as far as I know, Valve invented the original approach, which is called SDF, right? But it has some problems, like with you see this, the A. This is not perfect. So it has the approach that Valve created has a few problems with some letters because of they're not very accurate, like here. See, so MSDF improves that, but there is a bunch of formats. So we have, I think I'm using this. So this, I think this library, I'm using it. I just don't remember the details. This library is kind of like what's behind the scenes, and then this, the Atlas Gen, is using the other one to create the Atlas. See, this is an Atlas. And then you have all the approaches here. So Artmask is basically bitmaps without anti-aliasing. This is the typical rasterizing, right, that I can do. And then you have the SDF. The SDF, I don't know what this one is. This is what I'm using. I didn't go all the way because empty SDF, you can do effects. And let's say I have some links here saved. I have a few good examples. So if you, let's say, I think, yeah. No, this is a good one. So this is a good one. So here, this one, you can play around with the effects. Like you can zoom, you can see there is no problems with the scaling, right? And then this is using the format that allows you to do effects. See, this is nice. It's not something I need at the moment, so I didn't bother with that. But I might do this in the future. I just think it's overkill for what I'm doing. But it's nice. I think this might have the shader available. The main benefit is basically the zooming, and you can have just one texture. You just need to pick the right, let's say, resolution for the texture for the glyphs. You need to have the right resolution for the glyphs, because it will depend. So you can zoom, but there are limits. Like you need to get a good balance. Like, okay, this is a good glyph size that gives me good results for zooming in this range, basically. I can probably test that easily. So what font is this? So if we go here, what font is this using? I do not know. Let's go to player script. What font is it using? Font, it's using Poppins. It's using Poppins regular. So let's take a look at this. So if you go to Poppins regular here, MSDF. Okay. It's regular. Huh. didn't realize it was so small. So I'm only using a point size of 14, and it seems to be enough for. So if we go, let's say, now I run this. Yeah. That is zooming fine. Now, if I change this, let's put 10. If I run this, yeah, I will have to check what's happening here. Anyway, this is still the older engine. But MSDF is not all rainbows. If you're drawing really small font sizes, then rasterizing, so bitmaps are still better. They give you better quality. I can probably test this easily with, let's say, let's go with, yeah, you can see it's slightly better. Bitmap. It's hard for you to see, but for small sizes, bitmap is still better, but it's hard to notice on the stream. So MSDF, you have the benefit of one texture and you can scale it. But for if you need a small font size and you know the size, bitmap is still better. Well, it depends. Like for example, let's say 16. No, where was it? I have like a tiny font here. This guy here. So this is a TTF font, but it's in bitmap. That's what I use for like tiny text. Like for example, for this, the stats. This is using rasterization. Now, if I change this to MSDF, still looks okay-ish. Maybe use a 16, yeah. Depends on the font, but trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. If for small sizes, you're better off with bitmap. Oh, what? Where? Right, so I need to get back to work. At some point, I might give it a go with this. I'm not an expert in these things. I am pretty much. So I've been coding for like what, 30 years? More than 30 years. No, I'd say 30 something. But graphics is definitely my weakest point. So this is all new stuff that I'm doing. I had zero experience with shaders when I started this. So most of the shader stuff, I'm just using some reference, and then I'm just adapting it. But I need to go pick up the kids from school in a bit. Another thing I don't have yet is texture compression. I'm just saving PNGs. I'm not using like GPU texture compression. It's just raw RGB data. It will come later. Let's put some music on. I'm working on this full time at the moment, at least until the end of the year. And then I'll have to reevaluate my situation. This is temp. Let's close it. So what are you working on? Are you working on your own engine or using like Unity or something? Oh yeah, I'm just catching up with your messages about the Windows directory list size. Yes, I know what you mean. I am aware of it, and if I come across the problem, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna basically, based on the hash, I'm just gonna put leaf folders, right? So I'm split it, like you're suggesting. So what kind of directory size you started having problems with? Was it around 10,000 files per folder? I'm still way far from that, right? That won't be a problem for me anytime soon. Hi, excuse me. Blah. But I am aware of the problem. Let's go back to this. So we're gonna go do this. Actually, this can probably stay. And and what were the problems you were encountering? Was it just things got slow or just stopped working altogether? Because I don't know if Windows actually has a limit. It might just be a performance problem, right? But still, 100,000. Let's see. Yeah, I am using just what's the name of the hash? FNVA. That's the one I'm using. FNVA. Is it this what the name? 1A, FNV1A. That's what I'm using. 1A, yeah. Oh, excuse me. Speaking of hashing, did you ever come across hash collisions? Never happened to me. I know it happens. It can happen in real life, but all these years, never happened to me. I never had a hash collision. I don't think I ever used that one. But the MD5 is that's archaic, right? That's legacy, I think. Yeah, it's a broken one. Yeah. Let me check with my wife what time the kids are out. I think I might have to go. Give me a moment. Yeah, I'll have to go soon. So I think I asked you. Not sure if you answered. Are you using your own engine? I don't remember if you asked. Oh, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated.
Impromptu_ninja just followed.
Did you stream? Let me check you out. Followed you back in case you stream. So all this crap I'm doing is actually for a game that I've been working on some of the game tech since 2012. So it's been a very long time. But obviously it was just on my free time, and only this year I started working full time. When I was at Epic Games, I was not allowed to work on that. So for a few years, barely made any progress. But I do have a bunch of stuff done for some tech I need for the game. But no, it's not engine related. It's just some particular systems I need for the game. But man, when I think back, it's like, geez, why have I been working on this for so long? 2012. So the plan is to I want to work on the engine for another month or two. Once I get to the point that I can just have a world and walk around, I'll start experimenting with gameplay. Ah, you like low level. So that's, man, you came to the right stream. Because the game, one of the main components in the game is retro programming. So that's good. That's good. You came to the right stream. So the thing I've been working on. So the game, it's going to be a space-based game. You have your spaceship. I need to experiment with gameplay to see what's fun. But the biggest thing in the game is, so you have your own spaceship, and your spaceship computer is actually a fully simulated computer, and it controls everything. Like in Star Trek, right? The computer just controls everything, the ship computer. So what I want to do is, any computer in the game is actually fully simulated, and by default it does what you need to do. Like if you go around, play the game, depending on what the game is. Like that's why I said I need to experiment to see what's fun. So the computers by default are fully usable. You don't need to code, right? If you're talking about like a space-based game, you have your spaceship. The ship computer is full simulated. Any little computer like terminals, whatever, like basically electronics are. I mean that every computer is fully simulated, right? But by default, they need to be able to do everything you need to do to play the game. So you don't need to code. But if you are technically inclined, you can basically change everything. So I have all that stuff done. That's what I've been working on all those years. And I'll show you what I mean. But this is a very, I need to come up with a gameplay loop that's fun without coding. And then the coding part is just a huge Easter egg. It's kind of like, I always compare this to Minecraft Redstone. Like you can play survival just fine without doing any fancy Redstone stuff. But then when you discover Redstone, it's like a whole new world. So I need to come up with a similar vibe. Otherwise, it's a very niche thing. So let's say G4, this guy here. So I designed an instruction set. It's a fully custom instruction set inspired by ARM. So it's kind of inspired by RISC-based CPUs. So what do you have here? Let me just... So this is a different process. So this is the server, let's say, where the computers are simulated. And then, let's say, so this here is the server, right? All the white stuff is local. And this is a toolchain. It's not RISC-V because I started working on this before RISC-V was a thing. See, this is how long I've been working on this. So 2012, that was already kind of the start of RISC-V, but there was no RISC-V yet. So that's why. So I have a custom, I have a C compiler, assembler, linker, IDE, debugger. So this is all custom made, except the C compiler. So the C compiler, I ported a C compiler. So the C compiler is not fully custom, but everything else, like even the editor, it's custom. So let's say hello world. Let's go to samples. So this is, I'm just gonna zoom in so you can see. So this is the minimum you need for an hello world application. This is advanced, obviously. I will have to come up with a higher level scripting or something for players. But at some point, I will make these tools available. Right? In game, I want to have some kind of scripting language, so you don't need to do this. But then I will make these tools available for low-level coding. Which one? What line? This? LR. It's load unsigned byte. Basically, it's not sign extending. It's loading a byte into the register without extending the sign. And so the way I designed the architecture is when it boots, it's kind of like easy to use. So the only thing you're doing here is basically asking for the address of the screen buffer, right? And then you're just looping, copying bytes to the screen. That's it. Obviously, it's straightforward. So if you run this, so build and hello world. So this is kind of like the view into the computer, but the computer is actually not running here. It's running on the server, but this is kind of like it allows you to interact with the computer. So this is an hello world, but the way I designed the architecture, when it boots, it's like easy to use. You have access to everything, but then you can enable like interrupts, memory protection, address translation. Yeah, you can actually code the proper OS for this. But by default, it's just easy to use. And then you can enable all the advanced stuff. So the default operating system will make use of all that stuff. So if you go to the OS, so the OS is coded in C with obviously a bit of assembly. So I already have a preemptive kernel as a proof of concept. So if I run this, let's run the OS. You can see here initializing the page table like in Linux. And what it's doing here is the kernel is basically creating like initializing itself, and then it's creating a dummy task, hello world task, and then what it's doing here is basically yes, sorry.
Both of us need to go today because there's the meet the teacher. So you go for Danny and I go for Andrew.
For the meetings.
Yeah, it's like a meet the teacher, so you can actually say hello and who the
Okay,
teacher is.
okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
both go.
I'll be done in a few minutes. So what's doing here is basically like it's the kernel switching between tasks. Just as a proof of concept. I can have several processes, several threads. So that's all done. So the basics for the operating system is there. I have a file system. And now I would just have to code the apps on top. Yes, that's the idea. But man, I need to come up with something that's fun, and that's going to be a tough one. So I would like single player to be usable, but I don't know yet what would make it fun for single player. Because this thing with the computers, it's a good fit for multiplayer. Like if you have your own spaceship, right, and you are playing with other people, right, the server simulates the computers, and then you can create some interesting interactions there. That's why this is already running on a server. So the computers here, you can see here like there's one VM server and is running one computer. So this is the computer being simulated. So the idea is to be multiplayer, but I know it's more work, and I would like to have some single player first. That's fun, because otherwise it's gonna. Because I want to make this for a living, right? Not necessarily this game, but I want to stay indie. That's why I took this year off to work on this full time. So I need to come up with something that's fun, single player, and then build multiplayer on top. But I have no idea yet how to make this fun. And it needs to be done in a way, like I said, Minecraft, that you're not required to do advanced stuff until you want to. And that's why I was saying that as soon as the engine is usable and I can just have a scene I can walk around in, what I'm gonna do is I still have a few things to do in the engine to be able to get there. So I need to have basic audio, physics, networking. You might have to wait, but at least audio and physics. So once I'm done with the pipeline meshes, so audio, physics. And I guess at that point I should be able to just walk around the world. And then when I get there, I am going to integrate all this stuff into the, not the engine, right? But all this stuff I have done is a separate process, right? So, and some of this code is old. So I will have to put this all in the game and then start experimenting with simple things. Like, just see what's fun, like walk around the world, interact with a terminal, make it control things. For physics, I am very likely going to use Jolt, or that was the plan, Jolt. But now there is a new one, Box 3D, which came out like a few weeks ago. I might give this one a go. But the idea was Jolt from the beginning. Yes, I don't know if Box 3D does multi-threading or parallel calculations. I think Jolt can do parallel computation. Not sure if Box 3D does. Right, I need to turn off. To go pick up the kids with my wife, and we have like the what we call like the parents' day that we need to go and talk to the teachers. And then once I'm back home, then I need to take the little one to activities, and it's Fridays are always like this. So I will be back sometime in the afternoon once they're all done with the activities. All right, thanks for the follow, Impromptu Ninja. If you show up another day, I can explore. I can expand a bit more on all this stuff that I have been doing, like the way I designed the instruction set, like the architecture, like how it makes it easier to attach devices. So I kind of have like a plug and play type of thing that, should I explain? There is like kind of a standard, like for the devices, right? And at the moment I have just these devices: CPU, clock, screen, keyboard, network card, disk controller. These are the default ones. And then I will have to design like shield controllers, weapons, doors, lights. But that shouldn't be too hard because they all kind of work the same way. Right, I am off. Right, take care. Thanks for joining. Right, bye-bye.